G'day guys, it's Ben again, here to bring you another video, and this one is going to be looking at making a Norman style kite shield. So teardrop shields, and also known as the kite shield, came in around about the mid-10th century, so somewhere around the 950s they started to come into play into Western Europe, most likely because of an Eastern influence by the Byzantines. So lots of the so-called Vikings and Anglo-Saxons had started to work with the Byzantine Varangian Guard, and the influences that they brought back with them in terms of the shields and certain types of weapons started to then become a big influence in the armies of what we now know today as France, Germany, Italy, Spain, England of course, and so on and so forth. Rightio, so the first thing you're going to need is something like this. This is a shield blank. This particular one was bought from a company called Medieval Fight Club, and I highly recommend it. So this is a plywood shield blank. Obviously back in the day they would have been using different materials, but that's okay. We're making a shield essentially for reenactment and role play games, that kind of thing, and so the materials and the techniques that we're going to use may be slightly different to what was used at the time, but ultimately visually the depiction that we're going to create is something that's very sort of akin to what would have been at the time. Okay, looking at shield, we're going to need a whole bunch of different materials to make this work. So the first thing we're going to grab is some fleece padding. Padding on these sorts of shields didn't actually come into play until much into the 11th, 12th centuries, but that's okay. I prefer to use that when I'm doing my reenactment. Belts. So you're going to use these for straps. So I bought a series of belts from an op shop, and they're not that expensive. Linen for the face of the shield, and PVA glue. The particular type of glue that I use is this, which is a Sikaflex interior and exterior glue. You're going to need a shield boss. That's more optional actually, I should say, but that's okay. Some shields certainly had them and some did not. Let's take a quick look. The next thing is rawhide. The cheapest way to get that is through dog treats and toys. You're going to need twine or something like that. I personally hand stitch my shields. You may choose not to. And some embroidery needles. You're going to need some nuts, washers and bolts. And I think that is pretty much it. When we're putting the linen down, it's really important to make sure that the shield is completely free of any dust, sticks, stones, whatever, because anything on the surface of that shield is going to come through. So it's so important to make sure that you've given it a quick clean and you haven't got any debris lying on it, otherwise it'll come through to the surface and it's just not going to have the right look on it. I also find that cutting the linen approximately to shape is really important, because it's going to just make life so much easier for you. I tend to leave approximately 15 centimeters or 6 inches worth of fabric around each side of the shield, so that I've got plenty for overlap. Some of that I'll trim off later, that's fine, but for right now, I like to just get that done and get that out of the way. Okay, let's crack on. You're going to need to use a lot of this glue. And you want to go right up into the edges. Then use your fingers and smear it around. I've seen some people using wood to do that, and that's fine. Personally I prefer fingers because I'm more of a dexterous kind of person, so that's what works for me. Whatever works for you is whatever works for you. Alrighty. To hold the linen in place whilst the glue dries, I'm using a whole bunch of these fold back clips. you want to be using a fair bit of body weight to get this accurate. And the tighter you get your linen now, the better the appearance is going to be as it dries. We know that historically that warriors and knights and so on used shields that also had multiple layers of what we now know today as being hessian. And the reason that they were using that hessian is because once glued together, and the glue at the time would have been a cheese-based glue, but at the time it would have created something that's very similar to fiberglass today. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the rawhide into soaking water overnight, and that's going to allow that rawhide to become nice and soft and pliable, and it's going to be very easy to use. We now have 2 layers of linen on the shield. Ideally you want to cross grain it, but both of them have dried really well overnight. I don't have any air bubbles, I don't have any debris or dust or anything that's sort of built up underneath and has created an imperfection. So I'm really happy with that. On the back, I've tidied it up. I'll probably cut a little bit more off as we go, but that's pretty good for now. And I've placed down a layer of this is actually synthetic fleece, but it just makes it a little bit more comfortable, and there's a little bit less wear against your forearm when you're holding the shield. This isn't historically accurate towards the 11th century, but was coming in during the 12th century, so for my character, absolutely fine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the shield and allow that to dry for 4 or 5 hours in the lovely sun. The particular paint that I use is this one, and this is like a water-based enamel, and works perfectly well, and it does the job for me. So we now have 2 coats of the paint, all nice and dry, all the glue, all the linen's done. The next step is the shield boss. Just really at the last stage now. The shield boss is on, all the straps are done, all the painting's pretty much finished, and now all I'm doing is just applying the rawhide edging. Alrighty guys, the kite shield is now completed. Painting's all done. I did need to do a few corrections there. The rawhide's all completed, It's come up lovely, and this would be something I'm very much looking forward to taking into Re-Enactment and seeing how it goes. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe and share, and I'll catch you in my next video.